TWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hello and welcome to Anomaly-NOW. This is Smiles Lewis. We are transmitting to you from Austin, Texas. This is the weekly news and media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit Scientific Anomaly Institute, aka the Anomaly Archive, seeking to preserve all things anomalous materials, research, popular literature, academic research, experiencer and researcher communications, reports of strange phenomena of all varieties, and the public education about those materials. So thank you for joining us. Welcome. Go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, for all kinds of information, including separate episode note pages for every episode of this show, Anomaly-NOW, that's gone back to when it was launched in 2020, hiatus on 2022. It is Wednesday, March 18th, 2018. No, it's not 2018. It's March 18th, 2026. And yeah, I'm a little discombobulated. Let's jump right in. Of course, if you want to find a whole bevy of news links, you might want to go to our Flipboard. That's flipboard.com/@anomaly archives. And then you can click through to the actual Flipboard where there are thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of links for you to explore there. Things that I've just added recently, the S4 Bob Lazar story trailer has just been released within the last 4 hours of this Wednesday. I am pre-recording this at about 3 o'clock on Central Standard Time on this Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, as I said. That S4 trailer we got to see a preview of at the recent Paramount Theater hosted It's Probably Nothing live podcast between Chris Ramsey and Jesse Michaels. Thank you, David, for taking me to that. That was so much fun. Wow. Anyway, yeah, now you can see the trailer that we saw. At least I think it is. I haven't actually watched it yet. I just flipped it immediately upon prepping for this show. We're going to get to this. Just the latest Disclosure Day official trailer has dropped for the new Steven Spielberg movie. Random thing I'm just noting because it's right here on the screen. Introducing Alter Ego, the world's first silent speech wearable. I saw a video recently documenting this interesting technology. You've got to see it to believe it. And I'm still not sure I believe it, but actually I do believe it. I think we are so much closer to the precipice of synthetic telepathy. I think there's likely been a lot of synthetic telepathy systems in black research labs for a long time. But yeah, this wearable device, who knows how much processing power is required, because in the image that they show here, it's basically like a small headset or earpiece set with a cable that goes off behind the guy's chair to some large processing device, probably. But apparently this research project, you can find videos going back at least 7 or 8 years, about 8 years, I think. And so it's, this is all stuff from the last decade, but it looks like it's getting renewed interest. And I think it's coming to a head finally. We'll see if they actually put out some device. But basically, it appears to enable two people to communicate silently with somehow this device picking up either on subtle physical facial cues and or actual brainwave activity that translates into words. This has so many wide-ranging possibilities. Obviously, for various people with disabilities, this could be a game changer. And I think it could be a game changer for the rest of us as well. So much going on. Also, check out this ABC News report. NASA, massive boom heard from Ohio to Kentucky caused by exploding meteor caught on multiple cameras across the country, across several states. Very interesting stuff. But so much stuff we're gonna get to. But yeah, that's over at our Flipboard. Of course, happening here in Austin right now is South by Southwest. South by so what, as some of us like to call it. There's several big things that have happened in the world of the paranormal and UFOs here at South by Southwest. One of those is the release of a documentary that has yet to find a distributor. That, of course, is part of why they're premiering at South by Southwest. And over at the Austin Chronicle, that's austinchronicle.com, South by Southwest Film Review, capturing Bigfoot, the fascinating story behind the most famous cryptid footage and the men who filmed it. So the big news is, allegedly, that a lot of people are now saying straight up the Patterson-Gimlin footage from, I believe, 1967 is a hoax. A lot of people have always believed that. A lot of people have totally disbelieved that. I would say I've always fallen on the side of believing that the footage was real, or at least could be real, and that the alleged debunkings of it prior to this recent documentary represented not very good dismissals of the footage and what it shows. That said, I am very curious to see this. I suspect that the nature of this documentary is one that relies heavily on the decades of emotional trauma caused within the family members of the people surrounding the maker of the film. From what I've heard, the footage that is revealed is just one part of the revelation of a hoax. And that new footage has apparently languished undeveloped in a safe for decades, and was recently developed and analyzed and is being made public in this documentary for the first time ever. And it apparently shows a practice run for the famous Patterson-Gimlin Sasquatch Bigfoot footage. The legendary, infamous, iconic images of a big female hairy what's-it traveling across the field of view, leaving tracks that were also cast, and becoming the most famous Bigfoot footage ever. This new footage apparently was practice run footage for that later Patterson-Gimlin Patty footage. And that alone, that maybe is a deal breaker. The story is also being revealed that the suit that was used was burned, and so it will never be found. And so nobody seems to be able to recreate adequately what's seen in these films yet, given the technology of the time. But we shall see, folks. There's obviously going to be a lot more to say about this, but I did want to show you. I'm not sure if this person is a local podcaster, this gentleman over at the YouTube channel Hairy Man Road. Of course, there is a Hairy Man Road north of Austin in Round Rock that has its own legend of a hairy wild man that also borders on a ghost story type folklore. But yeah, over at this young man's YouTube channel, Hairy Man Road YouTube channel, is his video. I saw the footage. It's a hoax. And I'm not going to play any of the audio here, but you can just see by his body language. And if you listen and watch it, he is distraught. He doesn't know where he's going to go from here. He comments at some point that he'd had several videos produced already that he was going to put on his channel, and not necessarily exclusively about the Patterson-Gimlin stuff, but that it's causing him to just want to take a moment and reflect before proceeding. Now, I'm not real familiar with this gentleman. I think his channel is fairly new, but it's already garnered over 21,000 views. He has over 7,000 subscribers, and I listened to everything he had to say, and I honestly, I'm now much more curious than I was before. Now, there are a number of other news links that we have flipped over that you can read, including the Wall Street Journal's "A New Bigfoot Documentary Helps Explain Our Conspiracy-Minded Era." And of course, that's behind a paywall. And so actually, there is a not paywalled version over at archive.ph where you can check that out. But yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this, folks. And there's going to be quite an uproar, I think. I feel like this has been percolating for years, and I think people have known about this for years, but yeah, we'll check that out. So meanwhile, of course, other people are responding, including our good friend Ken Gerhard over at his Patreon, Exploring Cryptozoology, Patterson-Gimlin Film Hoax Allegation! And he's waiting to comment, of course, until he's seen waiting to come down one way or the other until he's seen the footage, the movie. I will reserve final judgment until I actually watch the documentary with my own eyes. And I encourage everyone else to watch it. He suggests the possibility of a conspiracy theory here as far as the strange timing of this. And yeah, he He says, I still stand by my statement that Bob Gimlin is not a sociopath. If Bob was in on the hoax, then he is simply a people pleaser, perhaps to the nth degree, and simply did not want to disappoint all the believers who had so much emotionally invested in the PG Patterson Gimlin film. He probably hoped it would never be exposed as a fake after so many decades. As someone who has been on the same TV and lecture circuit as Bob for 22 years, I can assure you he was not in it for the money. As some have claimed, Bigfoot speakers and TV personalities don't earn nearly as much as people assume. And there's some other articles that you can read about, including Flipboardmagazine. The famed 1967 Bigfoot film was an incredible hoax, says the director of a groundbreaking new documentary. I also found a YouTube video where you can see an interview with the director, who I believe basically was provided the film undeveloped, and then with the help of, I think, his university film professor, had it professionally developed and analyzed. But yeah, this is big. This is big, folks. I know that may not seem all that important to some people, but yeah, it's kind of big, and there's going to be more fallout from this, and I'm very curious to see where this goes. All right, moving right along, more South by Southwest fun and interestingness. We have, of course, over at the schedule.southbysouthwest.com, that's sxsw.com, SpectreVision Radio Live, Childhood's End, Speculation on a Post-Disclosure World. This is hosted by a co-founder of SpectreVision. I'm sure you've seen SpectreVision has been taking over the podcasting landscape. They're gobbling up podcasts left and right. A lot of good ones. And its co-founder, Daniel Noah, hosted this with Danny Sheehan of the New Paradigm Institute. And the text here reads, what happens to civilization when the extraordinary is no longer theoretical? Last year's documentary, Age of Disclosure, awakened millions to the reality that UFOs and non-human intelligence may be genuine phenomena, reframing the conversation from fringe belief to serious public inquiry. Constitutional attorney and prominent disclosure advocate Danny Sheehan takes the next step, examining the legal, cultural, and spiritual ramifications of a post-disclosure world. What shifts when the fantastic becomes fact? How do governments, institutions, religions, and markets adapt? And how does human identity evolve when we are no longer alone? Moderated by SpectreVision radio director Daniel Noah. So this happened on March 17th. That was just yesterday. Unfortunately, I was not able to tune in live, even though I believe to be there, it costs you your platinum and innovation level badges for South by Southwest, which are pretty pricey. That's why I never go to South by Southwest, folks. It's just too dang expensive. But apparently you could have listened live, but I was not able to do so. Hopefully this was recorded and we'll be seeing clips or the whole entirety soon. Another thing I was going to show is, where is that? There was this flyer that a friend provided from, I'm not sure where he got this, but yeah, you can see, flyer right there. South by Southwest panel announcement for another event that happened that should be noted, and get that off there. And yeah, bring back up to, yes, no, we're still on SpectreVision. Let's go over to the historic impact of the Age of Disclosure documentary. This was a panel featuring Leslie Kean, Jay Stratton, Dr. Hal Puthoff. Oh my God, they got Hal to come out live for this. And the director-producer, Dan Farah. The text says, the explosive documentary, The Age of Disclosure, revealed an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life and has led to a historic presidential directive for disclosure. This panel on the film's impact will feature Dan Farah, the director-producer of the film, Jay Stratton, the former director of the U.S. government's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, UAPTF, Hal Puthoff, PhD, senior scientist for multiple U.S. government UAP programs, and be moderated by investigative reporter, author Leslie Kean. And this, of course, was scheduled to happen, where was it? On March 13th. So even more in the past, last week. So yeah, again, was not able to attend, nor to tune in, hopefully recorded. I'm sure it seems likely that they would have recorded that. So very curious to see more about that. Now, in other news, there is all this ongoing focus on the disappearance of General William McCasland. Of course, McCasland was one of the alleged insiders that was communicating with Blink-182 frontman Tom DeLonge, This all came out when he was making claims that he was hobnobbing with various military and government insiders about their interest in working towards disclosure of the UFO UAP reality. And then, of course, WikiLeaks happened, and John Podesta's emails were leaked, and those communications with Tom DeLonge and some of these other military insiders were also leaked and have been public ever since then. Well, McCasland has apparently disappeared, and you've probably already heard about this, but he's been missing now for a couple weeks. I forget the exact timeline, but it's another one of these desert Southwest disappearances that have captured the attention of the nation. Though, of course, the first one was the apparent abduction of the mother of a prominent mainstream news show who, whether related or not, had interviewed a lot of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And whether there's any connection there or not, who knows? But yeah, so General McCasland has gone missing, left behind anything that would help him be tracked in terms of electronics, but apparently left with his holstered sidearm and has not been seen since. There are, of course, concerns about possible psychological issues that he may have been having, and of course, the fear that he may be having suicidal ideation. But it is very strange that he would disappear so shortly after all this news of the president allegedly, well, not allegedly, very publicly stating that he wants to release all the UFO files, and McCasland's connections again to Tom DeLonge and claims of being an insider interested in disclosure. Well, over at Whitley Strieber's Unknown Country, that's unknowncountry.com, there is an interview with our good friend Micah Hanks, I believe, where this is being discussed. I have not had the chance to listen to this, but I'm always curious to hear what Whitley Strieber has to say, and especially interested to hear what Micah Hanks has to say. I also believe, I didn't pull this up, but I believe, let's see, over at Micah's, sure enough, at Micah Hanks' website, his publicly available latest podcast for March 17th, The Disappearance of Major General Neil McCasland, is available there as well. So you'll want to check that out. Now, some other things, of course, there's been another disappearance. I don't want to play this, but so there's another woman has disappeared, but this was like 8 months ago. It was in June of last year. She was hiking with a friend and was, quote unquote, 30 feet behind her friend on the trail when she was last seen and just vanishes. No body has been found. And this woman worked under Neil McCasland and also in advanced aerospace industry and that sort of thing. Some are drawing connections, including, of course, News Nation, the seemingly UFO-oriented right-leaning news outlet that is so much at the center of the GOP's transparency and disclosure advocacy of the last several years. So there's that weird aspect to this as well. And another strange aspect, I want to make sure, hold on, let me re-add this so make sure that the audio is going to play. Okay, sorry folks, this is not doing what I want to do. Oh gosh, this is, okay. Well, this is from Pavel Ibarra's Psychoactivo podcast, where it's titled, Eric Burleson makes a correlation between David Grush and General Neil McCasland. Well, that's one of the many things in this particular video, which is 20 minutes long. And basically, Eric Burleson, yes, says that David Grush had, in the months prior, been reaching out to General Neil McCasland to try to get him on the record, but that Mr. McCasland was refusing. Gosh, let me see if I can find this. Oh, I just had it all queued up. Where is this? So one of the strange things is on the YouTube channel of McCasland's wife, apparently back in 2020, she posted a video of a song that she wrote. And let me just see if I can get this to work. I had it all pulled up a second ago. The lyrics are pretty interesting and strangely prescient, and that's kind of creepy. She wrote a song called Indigo Blues, and I was going to play you the part where Pavel reads the lyrics. He out of respect for her, and the same here. I'm out of respect for her. I'm not going to play it. Plus, it's her copyrighted material. But here is what Pavel reads.
Something that I just found out about thanks to a post. It's a song called Indigo Blues that is on Susan McCaslin's YouTube channel. And Susan McCaslin is General McCaslin's wife. And the lyrics go like this. It says, "No word he gave before he left one night like an owl. So silent in his flight, left my world so dark. I long for light he's given me. Those deep, deep indigo blues. I'm deep in the dark and don't know what to do. The night swallowed him and left no clue. There was a time, it seems so long ago, I lived in a world of colors, all aglow. It was my man, oh yes, he was my beau. He's given me those deep, deep indigo blues. I'm deep in the dark and don't know what to do. The night swallowed him and left no clue. The moon, that fickle orb, has left me too. All the universe is left so untrue. No man, no light to guide. What can I do? He's given me those deep, deep indigo blues. I'm deep in the dark and don't know what to do. The night swallowed him and left no clue. Yes, the midnight swallowed him and left no clue." This is from 5 years ago.
So, yeah, it's not, I would say, it seems resonant to me. I'm not going to try to say that she was literally precognizing. And for all I know, that actually maybe that's not original to her. But if you go to the page for that song, it does say words and lyrics by her. So anyway, okay. What do you make of that? Moving right along. Of course, there's also been the drop of the new Disclosure Day official trailer on the Universal Pictures channel. Spoiler alerts. if you haven't already seen the teaser trailers, this official trailer is removing a lot of doubts as far as what happens. I don't want to play the whole thing. It's 2.5 minutes, and it's got some stuff we have not seen before. But again, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The young male character that we've seen, I forget the actor's name. I'm really bad with names sometimes, but he appears to be a hacker who's been working for the government to hide this kind of data, the disclosure data, and he's hacked it. He's going to reveal it to the world. And at some point, that famous clicking communication that the news anchor is seen doing, he plays it for somebody. Maybe it's that same actress. I'm sorry, I'm not sure, but he plays it for somebody, and they're like, "Well, it just sounds like gibberish to me." And he's like, "I understand it." And then at some point, he's asked by her, "Are they people?" And then they show us, him in the forming crop circle, and then he responds, "No, they are not people." There are images that we've seen glimpses of in previous incarnations teasers that imply now more than before the issue of telecontrol, the control of others remotely, as well as there is a snippet of a scene of somebody experiencing telepresence, whereby somebody is projecting themselves across time, across space, and so that somebody can see them even though they're not physically there. We've seen this in cyberpunk stories dealing with, holograms and that sort of thing in very evocative ways, but it seems to be tied into this idea of these non-humans who have various powerful technologies, including at one point we see what appears to be an invisible car or some kind of cloaked vehicle. Let's see. But one thing I did want, and of course, towards the end, we do see, and I think this was maybe a bit in another previous teaser trailer, where you see a saucer-shaped, probable UFO emerging out of clouds. But this is the part I wanted to play for you right now, because it's a big revelation of where one of the things about this that people have been wondering, is this truly UFO related? Obviously, everybody thinks it is. And how closely to the lore is it going to stick? Well, check this out.
This 79-year terror campaign of lies has to end.
So, yes, that's just a split second there with Coleman Domingo, again referencing 79-year terror campaign. And of course, that's a Roswell reference. And what do they show you on the screen? They show you a film slate, the kind of clapper that you see at the beginning of a film shoot. And what's scrawled on it? Roswell, New Mexico, July 7th, 509th BG/RAAF, number 5, occupant, roll 18. And then another shot that seems to imply shots of something. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Turn the volume down real quick and just click and pause. Click and pause. There we go. Yeah, hard to see what that is. It looks to me like a canopied crash site with people crawling all over it. I guess that's supposed to be, like the crashed wedge shape there. And there's at least probably a dozen or more people visible throughout the scene. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Anyway, and as I say, there's all kinds of other things in this video trailer. I gotta say, man, there's a whole segment that they keep showing that seems really bad CGI. But yeah, there is the UFO coming out of the clouds, folks. I know what I'm doing for my birthday. Okay, moving right along over at space.com. The new Disclosure Day trailer just dropped, and now we think it's a secret sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. What? I know I've heard this idea expressed before. Wouldn't it be cool if Spielberg was actually continuing his previous work in the field of UFOs with that? But I'm not sure what to make of that. But I like the idea. I think that would be really cool to have it be somehow connected to his earlier UFO, his most well-known UFO work. Is it his most well-known UFO work? I think so. Okay, now just shifting briefly. Oh, well, yeah, I did want to. Oh, no. Sorry. Wait. Yeah, so here is one of the posters for the new Disclosure Day official trailer. I think it's the thumbnail for that. And did I close? I think I accidentally closed. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. So this is the landscape version where you have a very obvious classic saucer shape with an eye in the center, and there is a reflection in the eye, and it appears to be, again, that the CGI elk, the deer elk-like creature with its big antlers. I can't quite blow that up enough for you to see that. Maybe I can. Yeah, it's there, folks. And then there is also this portrait version of the poster that's got the same thing. All right, yeah, moving right along to vaguely related, drone-related UFOs. TWZ, that's the War Zone, TWZ.com, has a very important article, What Cops Saw Chasing Down New Jersey Drones. A large tranche of never-before-published documents provides insights into what law enforcement saw in the skies during the drone scare of 2024. And this is by Howard Altman, dated March 12th. Yeah, I've just started reading through this, and I'm so glad that they've done the FOIA request to get these, and they basically have reproduced the clips, rather the emails that were going back and forth between law enforcement and other emergency operators. And while I don't know that there's any definitive information here, this does to me provide a little more context, or really a lot more. And this definitely shows that something was going on. And some of the interesting bits in here include the fact that they were experiencing seemingly connected radio communication problems, some of which seem to coincide with the presence of drones near their radio towers. And this, you can read certain segments where that seems to be the case in here. Now, something else, there are some UFO podcasters that I occasionally refer to. I'm not going to say who this is, but it's in one of their recent podcasts where this person who's been in the New Jersey area and has said that they have seen these drone swarms throughout the flap, but have continued to see nightly drone activity that they find extremely suspicious and that they think may be connected to something else that's been in the news. And that is the Roxbury, New Jersey controversy over residents' protestation against, let me bring this up here. Where is it? There we go. New Jersey, Roxbury residents oppose plan for immigration detention facility. ICE buys warehouse for migrant detention. Roxbury officials say New Jersey residents oppose conversion of warehouse into ICE detention center. This is apparently a massive warehouse that has been bought by ICE for immigrant detention. And I believe the largely right-leaning locals are against it for whatever their personal reasons are. And I'm not bringing this up for any political reasons other than the podcaster that I was referring to has suggested the possibility that though the drone activity they are witnessing, because they are close to this facility, is somehow possibly connected to it, as if the suggestion basically is that perhaps it's a staging area for this drone activity, or that there's some connection to ICE and the drone flap. That's to me a very disturbing suggestion, and I would say that there's not much in the way of evidence provided by this podcaster, so I'm just taking their word for it and taking it with a big chunk of salt. But I found that very interesting. Well, what county are they in? That is Morris County. Roxbury is apparently in Morris County, New Jersey, and Morris County definitely features as one of the sources of emails and other documents that were obtained by TWZ, thewarzone.com. And that's stuff that you can read in here. Other interesting things that they really do talk about, seeing large drones. And again, this article does, as the Warzone has repeatedly done, point out that a lot of the media did a horrible job of reporting on this and weeding wheat from chaff in terms of known misidentifications of planes and planets for quote unquote drones, and how the civilian population were very much doing so. But TWZ has been really focused, of course, on the incursions of drones over military bases, and again focusing on law enforcement, and a lot of these emails focus on that and the sightings of these drones in and right near like power transmission lines, power substations, reservoirs, dams, high tension lines, all the kind of infrastructure that would be potentially susceptible to bomb-laden drones or drones that are disrupting communications. And in one of the cases highlighted somewhere in here, there was what was perceived to be a person, I believe, on a dam or near a dam and looking around with a flashlight. And when the officers were close to that individual, their radios ceased working. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that would concern law enforcement and the military. Let's just scroll down. I'm not sure if they've even provided a conclusion to this, but again, they've mostly just done the heavy lifting of doing the FOIA requests and getting these documents. That's really important work. And sifting through them obviously is hard, but they have translated them and made them available in text form. These are not some of these are scans, as you can see here, but yeah. Oh, did I just skip over a possible conclusion? No. In closing, there have been no arrests made in the Jersey drone investigation and no drones recovered that we know of. The vast majority of these incidents, as we noted earlier in the story, were misidentifications. However, these firsthand reports from law enforcement officers and government officials are interesting, credible witness data points and underscore just how little we still know about what actually happened or didn't happen over New Jersey during the winter of 2024. And again, we have some people claiming that it is ongoing to this day into 2026. That same podcaster has made some other very interesting assertions and speculations, but about these possible scenarios. But meanwhile, over at thedebrief.org, Micah Hanks writes, U.S. officials investigating quote-unquote mystery drone incident over Barksdale Air Force Base that prompted security alert. Sightings of an unmanned aerial system over Barksdale Air Force Base, BAFB, early on Monday morning resulted in a shelter-in-place order prompting officials to temporarily raise the threat level at the facility. For a short period, the base's force protection condition level was temporarily raised to FPCON Charlie, indicating an incident potentially indicative of a form of terrorist activity targeting U.S. personnel or facilities. Of course, this is all in the shadow of the FBI's suggestion that Iran could try to launch possibly drone-enabled terrorist attacks against California. I don't know that that's where this base is, but that's what I'm assuming. I'm not that well versed with bases. Let me see if I can. No, I don't see California coming up. Where is? Well, anyway, but you can read all about that over at thedebrief.org. And let's see, just real quickly here, what were some of the other things we were going to cover? Other UFO UAP news. UConn, University of Connecticut official requests $300,000 for UFO study. That is over at insideinvestigator.org. Meanwhile, over at theconversation.com, while the U.S. government is investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena, academic researchers studying them face stigma. And there's also over on YouTube the first episode of a series, I hope to see more, called Anomaly, Episode 1, USO. And it appears to be a fictionalized version of the kinds of things we've been hearing about in terms of remote viewers that were involved in UFO, UAP government research, a la OSAP and ATIP, and the claims of people like Paul H. Smith and Lou Elizondo, etc. But gotta love the name, Anomaly. Meanwhile, over at The Observer, that's The Observer magazine, Pennsylvania UFOs, an interview with MUFON's Jim Krug. Yeah, check that out. We highly encourage you to visit The Observer magazine online. That's theobservermagazine.com. Over at it redirects to their Substack. And Pennsylvania, come for the UFOs, stay for the cryptids. And there's a nice little interview there with Jim Krug, who has a very interesting background. Graduated from Juniata College in 2002 with a bachelor's in science and in earth and space science and secondary education. He's served as director of the Neil Armstrong Planetarium in Altoona, Pennsylvania since 2003. He co-founded the Space Race Museum containing valuable artifacts from the U.S. and Soviet space programs and founded the Mount Lion Observatory at the nearby Fort Roberdeau historic site. Krug has been a MUFON field investigator since 2015 and a Pennsylvania State Section Director since 2017. He is a member of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team, ERT, which investigates close encounters of the fourth kind and beyond. Yeah, check it out. He also apparently co-hosts a podcast I had not heard of called Majestic Ears Only. And here he is on the right there next to the writer for The Observer magazine. So check that out. All right. Again, we have lots of links to information on the missing General McCasland, including links to that Elizabeth Vargas reports over at News Nation. Missing Air Force General was experiencing brain fog for months, say the police. The disappearance of General William McCasland, as we mentioned, over at Unknown Country with guest Micah Hanks. And over at dailygrail.com, alleged UFO insider goes missing. And that link to the Pavel Psychoactivo podcast that we also played a bit of. Lastly, we've got some great links that are worthy of your attention in the consciousness, mind, and beyond category. There are some great articles. Can the mind heal terminal disease? This one is over at Mitch Horowitz's Substack. And as he rightly opens, I would sooner stop writing than proffer false hope to sufferers of terminal illness, but peer-reviewed medical literature does, in fact, record extraordinary non-isolated healings. This is over at his blog, Mystery Achievement. And let's see what else have we got. Yeah, this one is pretty weird. Sine wave speech sounds like nonsense until it doesn't. Oh, yes, I like this a lot. Check this out. So there's an accompanying video that kind of encompasses, this is not a new phenomenon. People have known about this for a long time, and it's the kind of thing I've long heard about and have already forgotten. So
The man read the newspaper at lunchtime.
In other words, there is a phenomenon where you can warp speech to the point where on first listening to it, you can't understand it. But then when you hear the actual words, and in some cases, I think maybe just have the words displayed to you, you can understand what you previously could not understand. Now, that seems simple enough, but I find it pretty interesting. And some other people are bringing this up in the context of the clicking language from Disclosure Day. So make of that what you will. Let's see what else we got. A new study is investigating the link between neurodivergence and anomalous communication. This one, again, over at the debrief.org and written by Chrissy Newton, University of Virginia, and its Division of Perceptual Studies, DOPS, are conducting research that delves deeper into how our brains process information in relation to anomalous experiences. DOPS is designing and executing what it describes as the first study examining unusual or atypical forms of communication and perception, sometimes referred to as anomalous communication, or more traditionally, telepathy. The goal of the study is to better understand the experiences of people who perceive or communicate in ways that may not fit conventional models. Whole article over there for you to check out. Highly recommend it. Very interesting new research opportunities. Meanwhile, over the Daily Grail, some dying children regain consciousness and talk to invisible others just before passing. This is a known phenomena, but definitely worthy of more research. And our writers over at dailygrail.com have it covered. Some other interesting headlines. Horses can detect human fear through scent alone. That from abovethenormnews.com, as well as this tiny fish passed an intelligence test that once distinguished great apes. This from sciencealert.com. And then a nice YouTube video that I have not had the chance to watch, but I am very keen to, and that is Spirits, Ghosts, and the Strange New Neuroscience of Unseen Others by Ben Alderson-Day. And
book Presence, The Strange Science of the Unseen Other.
The short answer is that it was the COVID pandemic, and I was at home with a small baby, and there were fewer things that you could do. You know, we were going through various different lockdowns and things like that. And a few years before, I'd written a piece about this unusual experience of feeling the presence of others even when you can't see or hear them. I'd written a piece for the Psychologist magazine, which is made by the British Psychological Society. And an agent had got in touch with me then and said, "Are you interested in doing a book?" And I had said no, because I didn't think there was enough research, and I didn't think I kind of knew enough about it to really do.
So that interview is about 45 minutes long, and the description says, Ben Alderson-Day is a cognitive scientist and author of the book Presence, the Strange Science and True Stories of the Unseen Other. In this podcast, they discuss the experience of sensing presences, even in otherwise healthy people, why such experiences are more likely in extreme situations, how the brain constructs a sense of another being, how to think about the metaphysical status of spirits and ghost encounters, how this capacity shapes everyday reality, how AI might induce the feeling that someone is really there, and much more. And it's got chapters too, nice time-stamped chapters for you to explore. So that looks like a lot of fun and interesting information to come from that. Lastly, this is probably a couple of weeks ago. Again, I think behind a paywall, some people see aliens while on DMT. Maybe I mentioned this already. I think I did. Researchers want to find out what they can teach us. A new psychedelic retreat calling itself a SETI for the mind aims to establish two-way communication with the non-human entities people encounter while tripping on DMT. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Oh, right, mentioned this. I certainly have talked about, I think I showed the website a month or two or so ago. And over at archive.ph is the non-paywalled version of Wired Magazine's article where you can read more about this. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming to your podcatcher and catching the pod and either listening or going to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and helping spread the word about our organization and its charitable nonprofit goals and mission. Definitely also want you to consider joining our Patreon. If you join at the $10 or more monthly level, you can participate in our monthly online lectures coming up this Saturday, March 21st at 7 p.m., we are going to have our good friend, the wonderful researcher and storyteller, Zelia Edgar, presenting If Coincidences Are Just Coincidences, the element of perfect timing in high strangeness encounters. Again, that's this Saturday, March 21st at 7 p.m. We hope you'll consider joining us and joining our Patreon, becoming a patron, supporting our work. Or if you just want to, you can, of course, go to anomalyarchives.org. You can find our P.O. box. You can mail us an old-fashioned check. We also take donations via PayPal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, goodness gracious. Oh, and speaking of Zelia Edgar, she recently was the guest of our good friend Steve Berg on his Hi Strangeness podcast, and it's a great conversation. So wonderful hearing Zelia on such a personal level with such a personable host as Steve Berg, and learning so much about her as we approach this Saturday's fun presentation from her. So, all right, that's it. Have a good one. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Good night. Good day. Take it easy. Beware. Wonderful. You are loved.